Welcome to The Pickup. I'm Will Lewis, and today's guest is Terry Daniel. Welcome, Terry.
Great to be here. Thank you, Will. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thanks so much for being here. Now, let's jump right into it, Terry. Tell us, how did you get your start in voice acting?
Do we have to jump right into it? I love small talk.
We do not. As a matter of fact, I understand that you got your start maybe in radio. Is that right?
I did. I got my start in radio and theater almost simultaneously, really back in the late 80s. And this was back when radio, it was a small little station that was owned by one particular individual. And, those days are pretty rare. Everything's been kind of gobbled up by some of these huge corporations now. So,
oh yeah. But
back then, and I know a lot of people in radio can relate to this. When you were just working with one program director, one owner, you had a little more creative liberty, so it was a lot more entertaining. But getting into the voiceover part of it, one of the reasons I started getting into that because I got really bored with the corporate end of radio. When the corporations started buying out all these little stations, the creative edge was gone, and then, the fun kind of went away. So, I was kind of, I had entrepreneurial blood when I was born. I was kind of born to kind of do this from home. And, from the radio days, that's where I kind of launched into this.
Okay. Right. So when the corporate takeovers started moving in, you kind of lost maybe a little bit of your taste for radio.
Yeah, I really did because I was I'm a fairly creative person, and you couldn't be creative on the air anymore. You were basically a card reader. You could read the forecast and the traffic report, and they didn't let you say anything funny after a while, and pretty much a robot behind the microphone. And I'm like, what, this just isn't. Radio's supposed to be fun. It just wasn't fun anymore after a while, but. I've always wanted to kind of get into voice ever since my parents bought me a Mr. Microphone way back in the 70s. I think I was probably in second or third grade.
I remember those.
Oh, yeah. I think you can still get them like on some vintage site on eBay or something. And
along with a big wheel and a what's his name?
Stretch Armstrong. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I heard Stretch Armstrong is looking to get into voiceover.
Is he really? Wow.
I'll be mentoring him next month.
Okay, well, you can't be a wrestler forever.
No, you can't. And that's really how I got the bug, because I started kind of making up my own commercials and doing a lot of improv into the microphone when if I could find an empty FM frequency that would work on my little transistor radio. And then, I'd put on fake concerts for my family. Feel sorry that they had to put up with that. But, ever since I kind of held that microphone in my hand is when is really truly the beginning of the voiceover bug. Even back when I had no idea what the term voiceover even meant. I started doing a couple commercials locally, and I didn't even know that what I was doing was even called a voiceover back then. Somebody would tell me what it was called, and I'd have that crinkle on my nose, that look of confusion, and I had no idea. To me, it was just like, okay, I'm just reading commercials, but that's really that's really where it all kind of got started.
Now, going back to your Mr. Microphone days here for just a second. It sounds like you got your start performing in front of your family. You ever get any standing ovations?
No, but they threw a lot of water at me.
Water.
Oh no, they were very kind. Oh, believe me, I went way out of my way. I would spend. It's fairly embarrassing. I would spend hours putting together my concert posters that I would post all over the home for when Terry Daniel was going to perform. And, even though, and it was a pretty big house, I have a brother and four sisters, and I just needed to let everybody know, on 55 different pieces of paper, what time that concert was going to begin.
I bet it was standing room only.
Oh yeah, standing room only. You couldn't even go to the refrigerator without seeing a concert poster for Terry Daniel and his Mr. Microphone.
Okay, real quickly, Terry, tell us a little about your theater experience.
Theater experience was a great experience, and I miss it like crazy. I just don't have the time to put into it these days, unfortunately. I think there will come a day where I will get back on the stage at some point, but I did a lot of community theater, kind of small city, Minneapolis type theater, and even co-wrote a play with another writer and produced and worked with about 12 different actors on a play for a couple of months. But it was a short-lived career in the theater, but unless you're counting, junior high and high school, but it was really like a 3 or 4 year span where I would do some plays in and around town. And honestly, I loved it. People tell me I was good at it, although I had a little bit of a complex for a while because I wasn't super confident or comfortable on stage, but it was definitely an adrenaline rush. And I miss it. I really miss it. I hope to go back to the stage one day, but you know what? It was all very good training for my voiceover career as well, because I got a chance to play a few different characters and listen to a few different directors give me direction on delivery, and it was a perfect background to have for doing this.
Now, you were doing radio and theater around the same time. Which did you like better?
I definitely like theater a lot better because you had the creative element and you were able to kind of stretch out and use the creative side of your brain. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I mean, that just, it just wasn't happening after a while. As soon as I don't need to mention any names, but as soon as these huge companies started buying up some of these smaller creative stations, the fun really went away. So it definitely would be theater by a long shot.
Okay. Now, you just celebrated a huge milestone. You have been a full-time voice actor for 10 years now. Tell us about some of the type of work that you do. I know you do commercials. What other sort of projects do you work on?
Well, it's amazing because it's all over the place. Because, back then, way back in the day, it felt like it was either commercials, documentary, or movie trailers, really. Now it's like you got all these educational products online and online education where they require e-learning narration. And that really is one of my niches. I do commercials, e-learning narration, and then theme park announcements. Long gone are the days where somebody is actually at the theme park recording live. That just doesn't happen anymore. Now we're sending MP3s to whoever the marketing people or the creative people that are in charge of that.
Right.
So I do a lot of that. I'll just give you a little example here. If you're like on a roller coaster and you kind of hear that voice in the PA system as the roller coaster's coming around the bend and it's starting to slow down, and you kind of hear that, please keep your hands and feet inside the car until the car comes to a complete stop.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the one that says, you are going to die.
Disney, that's, I can't remember who that is, but yeah, that would be a fun one too. But
yeah,
I've done a lot of humorous ones as a joke. I've got such a good relationship with my client that I'll actually send him some fake ones.
Oh, really?
And I'll say, hey, you should throw that in. And he gets a kick out of that. But yeah, rules and regulations of the theme park. When is the laser light show starting? Don't smoke in the cave. No alcohol allowed on the roller coaster or whatever it is. Chances are my voice has been a part of that.
How many audiobooks have you narrated?
I've narrated about 6 or 7 audiobooks. I was into it for a while, and then I got spoiled. Because I started doing the shorter projects like theme park announcements and some radio imaging where they would send me, a sheet of liners to record, and which was really more suitable for somebody with intense ADD, such as myself. Most voice talents have ADD. I'm the only one humble enough to admit it. No, that's not true.
I've heard a few say that. Why do you think that is?
That's probably not true. You know what? It's actually a problem amongst creative individuals as well. If you talk to photographers, musicians, voice actors, regular actors, it's a common, the ADD issue is actually quite the common problem with all of us creative people. And with the audiobook stuff, it became a little more of an issue with me because they were very lengthy. As you know, I mean, they're very lengthy projects. And if you're producing them and you're doing all the editing, I mean, that's even more work. Yeah. And I just started to get a little overwhelmed with 260 pages of content about search engine optimization or, it was fun. I did an audiobook about the Minnesota Twins, which was great fun because it was sports related and I was really engaged in the content. So that, pardon me, that one went by really well, went pretty fast, and it was a lot of fun. But I don't do as many of them now because I've been keeping myself busy with these other projects, and frankly, these other projects are much shorter.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you can do a couple of hours, maybe less. You can do a commercial project, get your money, and be on your way. Whereas an audiobook could take weeks, months to complete a project.
Yeah, and it's so much, I mean, especially if you're doing all the different characters. If it's a fictional book and you have to do all the different characters, and let's say if there's like 18 different characters in the book, and you have to try to remember, what kind of voice you're using for a certain character, and there's ways in your recording software, obviously, that you can hit a button and get a quick reminder. But man, that could be a bit challenging as well. There's friends of mine that are doing audiobooks for a living, and they're doing nothing but audiobooks. God bless them. I can't go down that road because my brain just won't go there anymore.
Well, this is something that Jeffrey Kafer and I sort of touched on when I spoke with him a few months ago, and that is that voice actors I've known who've been narrating audiobooks for years now want to do commercial work, and the commercial voiceover artists now want to, some of the ones I've talked to want to do more narrating audiobooks. So it's kind of like, you do one thing long enough, you need to switch it up. Maybe you need a little bit of a change.
Yeah, but the nice thing about this industry is every week you're kind of switching it up, because it's very rare that you're ever working on the same project for 2 weeks in a row, unless you are working on an audiobook or maybe some type of lengthy medical e-learning project. I mean, that's the beauty of being able to do voiceovers from the comfort of your own home is, maybe 1 week you might be doing commercials, maybe theme park announcements. The following week you might be doing on hold messages, or maybe like a podcast intro or outro. I mean, the variety is, it's you can't even put a price tag on it. It's incredible.
Yeah. It keeps the creative side happy.
Yep, it really does. Yeah. And creative people with heavy ADD like myself, we need the variety every week, believe me.
Now, Terry, you also do some coaching, and we're going to come back to that. We're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to come back to that because I want to talk a little bit about your coaching. But tell us, okay, if some of our imagine that the majority of our listeners out there, 51%, let's say, just for the sake of argument, have picked up their microphone in the past 4 weeks. They are fresh. They are new voice artists, and they are trying to determine if this is for them and if they can make a living doing this. What could you say to them?
Well, first of all, I would tell them not to listen to half of the stuff that they read on the internet about it, because there's a lot of mythical information. There's articles on blog sites and directories where a lot of these, like how to get into voiceovers, a lot of these blog articles are written by people who aren't even doing voiceovers. They're really writing content for SEO purposes, and it's easy to get kind of put on a different path. Put on the dark side of getting into voiceovers. And, but if somebody who's listening to this podcast, or people that have just recently picked up the mic, I don't want anybody to be discouraged by words like competitive or mythical information, like you absolutely have to be union, or you absolutely have to have a talent agent to get booked for voiceover work. I mean, if either of those were true, I would be living on the street. Because most of the work that I do is with marketers, advertising agencies, producers, and with the business owner themselves. That said, voiceover industry is not a quick fix for the unemployed. I get a ton of emails and phone calls from people who are out of work. Hey, I can be a voice actor now, and I can make money really fast. I mean, if that's the frame of mind that you're going to be in, that's the recipe for disaster. There's no magic pill. There's no shortcuts for success in this industry. You know, it takes money. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of networking and marketing of your demos. I mean, it's not hard physical labor. That's the good news. It's actually, being in the industry this many years now, I actually really enjoy the marketing end of it. I like picking up the phone and calling somebody. I like sending somebody an email and asking them if it's okay to send a demo. But the people that really get after it, and they get some good coaching and they get a couple of kick-ass demos produced that sound talent agency ready, and they're sending, a multitude of these demos off on a weekly basis, then eventually it does kind of become a numbers game. There's still no guarantee for success, but it's a numbers game, and your chances are going to go up that you're going to get audition and job opportunities if you just keep at it.
So don't give up, and don't believe the hype. Don't believe all the negative and misleading info out there about voiceover industry. Yeah,
there's always naysayers, because whether you're a photographer, a musician, it's a creative business. And even though your creative friends want you to succeed, sometimes they're not always going to be there to help out, because, you're going to be a competitor. But that said, the voiceover industry is also a warm and fairly tight community. I mean, people do kind of, reach out, and they're always willing to help a person out. But it's an unbelievable time for voiceover right now, because most of us work from our home studios. It's very rare that you have to go to an off-site studio now to record a commercial, especially we have, technology like ISDN and Source Connect and all these different tools where we can work with any studio in the country or any client in the country as well as in the world. Most of the time I send an MP3 to the client. I don't do a lot of ISDN work, but I do have a plethora of clients in Europe even that are using me for narration work. So people getting into this too, you got to immediately get yourself into the frame of mind that you're a global voice talent. Don't worry about the area that you live in, because you have the technology and the resources now to work for anybody in the entire world.
That is awe-inspiring, literally. I mean, just thinking about what you just said, the fact that you can be employed by any employer in any country, in any time zone, that's pretty massive. That's a lot of potential.
Well, it is a lot of potential. And, some people get a little stuck because, the fear factor sets in, and that's very understandable. I mean, you really have to just kick that fear to the curb and just, hit the gas, because, I mean, it's no matter what creative industry that you're going into, it's easy to sit on this kind of stuff for years, and then you end up not ever following your dream. It's sometimes you just got to go for it. And even when I took the plunge into voiceover full time 10 years ago, I mean, I didn't have a lot of capital. I was still, by then I was kind of doing sales, in radio. I kind of went from on air to the sales side for a while and had some decent success. But again, the whole corporate thing just kind of, it's such a roadblock for me. It kept slowing me down and really getting in the way of wanting to pursue voice acting from home. So I just took the plunge, and I knew if I was going to make it work, I had to, spend at least 3 to 4 hours a day on doing nothing but marketing. And, thank God it worked out, and I really haven't looked back since.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay. Well, let's wind up here. Let's wind up I'm sort of making this circular motion with my arm, as in getting wound up for this next big portion of our podcast. And that is the free association game. So let's get wound up here for this free association game we have for you, Terry. Are you ready?
I have no idea what this is, but I'm always up for a challenge.
Idea. Okay. Well, I'm going to throw a word or phrase at you, and you just, whatever comes to mind, you just go ahead and spit it out to us and react. It could be one word, a couple of words, a sentence.
Oh, I love this stuff.
Yeah. So turn on that creative side there. Okay, here we go. I always enjoy
recording. Of course, I had to pick something voiceover related.
Very good.
I had to keep it clean,
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, of course, of course. This is a family show.
Yes, family. Rated PG. Or can you get away with a PG-13 rating on this podcast?
I don't know.
Well, we'll keep it clean moving forward.
Okay. I can't stand it when.
People are misinformed.
Okay. One of my favorite movies of all time is
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
the first one, of course.
Yeah, yes, the first one.
What'd you think of the second and third and the fourth? Out of
Well,
curiosity.
I could talk Indiana Jones for the next 7 hours and probably bore your listeners, but I thought Temple of Doom had the darkness and the suspense of the first one, but it lacked a lot of character development, and the story was less than interesting to me. And I thought the third one was adventurous, but it had a little too much comedy in it. And but they got away from the suspense. So the first three, and let's face it, I mean, I think Steven Spielberg would even admit this. Let's just pretend like we didn't even do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, that one was the obvious money grab.
Yeah,
But,
it was almost like at that point it felt like they were doing a spoof of an Indiana Jones movie. It was really hard to even take it serious. It was like, really? I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Do you know if they have plans to make a fifth?
Well, there's always talk about a fifth, and Harrison Ford, of course, I don't even know how old he is, but he's always up for it. He still talks about it if they had the right script, but he's not getting any younger. Yeah. But I would give the entire crew probably one more chance if they really wanted to put something together, but I don't really see that coming to fruition.
Yeah, yeah. But it was good while it lasted.
Yes, yes. And that first one is probably my favorite movie. That'd probably be in my top 10 favorite films of all time.
Oh, okay. I'd rather prepare a tax return than have to
drive anywhere.
Oh, really?
Being institutionalized in your own studio for this many number of years now, it seems like it's hard to even drive to the grocery store without getting a little stressed out with a little bit of traffic. Just not that much of a fan of it. And, when my wife and I go out for dinner, we like to take Uber rides.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that.
Because, let's face it, we do like to have a couple cocktails or a few glasses of wine at dinner. And these days, you really can't, have more than two without being over the legal limit. And Uber, the Uber car service is absolutely fantastic. But, to be quite honest, the service is cheap enough for me where anytime I have an opportunity not to drive, I'm a happy person.
Uh-huh. Okay. The one moment I wish I could relive is...
Oh, man, that's a tough one. The one moment relive is... You know what? Probably the first commercial I ever did was a country kitchen commercial. If you remember them, it was kind of like Perkins. Kind of like a breakfast chain. And that was one of the first commercials I did in like 1989 or 1990. And it would be really fun to relive that moment of getting that call saying they want you to do the country kitchen commercial, because there was nothing that it felt great. It was like that first step to kind of pursuing that dream.
Okay. Very good. One person from my past who I wish I was still friends with is...
Wow, that would have to be a guy that grew up in my neighborhood and that we went to kind of junior high and early high school with. A guy by the name of Ken Zilka. We did everything together as kids, but we moved out of the city and went to different schools and kind of fell off out of the map there. But, with social media now, like Twitter and Facebook, I've been able to kind of, reunite with a lot of like buddies from high school, and I'm hoping he pops up on there somewhere.
Oh, yeah? His name is Ken
Zilka, Zylka. I haven't been able to find him online, but he lived in my neighborhood. We had this baseball field that we'd play. This is back when kids actually went to the park to play baseball. I know. Seems pretty far-fetched these days, but yeah, we just did everything together for about, a good part of a decade. And it's just one of those kind of nostalgic childhood things where you kind of want to find an old buddy of yours kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Not too bad there aren't junior high school reunions. Huh?
Yeah, I know. It's it's amazing. But with Facebook, it's been amazing of just reconnecting with people that you went to high school with. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, if it wasn't for Facebook, we wouldn't be married because we went to the same high school together, and we weren't really good friends, but we had mutual friends. But we kind of got to know each other a little bit on Facebook just because of the Anoka connection. Anoka is the town where I went to high school in, and got to know each other and went out a couple times, and the rest is history there. So thank Facebook for that.
Oh, nice. Go ahead, Mark. I can't even Zuckerberg, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. I know. I can always fight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to send him a card. I'm sure he really wants to hear from me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're one of his 4 billion closest friends. Okay. Here's a tough one for you, Terry. If I could no longer be a voice actor, I would
either be a social media marketing manager or like one of those kind of jobs, or, this isn't really voice acting, so I think this would count. I would probably go for one of those PA announcer gigs at like a stadium for sports events.
Oh, really? Like NFL? Or
yeah,
MLB
yeah. I think I'd want to do like baseball, Major League.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's the sport I know the most about is Major League Baseball, and it would probably have to be something like that. If I lost my voice entirely altogether, I suppose I could edit people's projects or, directing. I could direct commercials. Obviously that would be a little more difficult if my voice was completely gone, but I guess that would be another thing that I'd throw in there. I could certainly direct television commercials. I have a huge interest in something like that.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. One thing I know today that I wish I'd known 10 years ago before I was a full-time voice actor, Terry, is...
Well, I wish I would have kind of jumped on the whole internet craze a little earlier than I did, because there weren't that many people doing voiceover online when the internet first came out. And, just even all these domain names, I could have gobbled up when the internet came around. So I wish I would have been a little more on top of it when that happened. I mean, you can't look back now and things have gone well since, but that would have been something that would have been really nice.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like buying Apple stock early on. Huh?
Right, exactly. Same kind of similar kind of thing for sure.
Yeah. My children would be surprised to know that I
am their father.
You don't have kids.
I don't have any kids. I thought that one would throw you for a loop a little bit, but
well, I thought, maybe before I ask this question, I should find out if Terry has any kids, but I can't do that because we're recording live now. So.
Well, I feel bad because it's a good question, and then I kind of threw you a curveball there, and
no
it'd be
problem.
interesting to hear what other people's responses would be to that question.
Yeah. Okay.
So this might be a dumb question for you. Is this podcast like live right now?
It is not.
Okay, I didn't think it was.
Yeah. That'd leave us in a pretty pickle if it were, but it's not.
Well, I did on-air radio, and you can't take that back.
Oh, yeah,
if you say something goofy or something happens, man. I mean, it's not like you can go back and edit it out.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of podcasting now is none of your listeners are going to realize that I've been using profanity. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, what is that like, by the way, being on air and not being able to take anything back? Do you ever say something and you just get so nervous you just got to pee, but you can't leave the mic?
Oh yeah, I've said a lot of stupid stuff on the air, especially early on in my radio career. There would be several mispronunciations. Sentences weren't phrased the right way. I would try to give out factual information that was completely backwards. I was just a young, naive radio announcer that really, was just trying to get his feet wet and get some experience. And yeah, I made a lot of mistakes on air. I was kind of, until I really got into the hang of doing it, for the first couple of years, I was really a crappy radio announcer.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere. You can't be, you can't start at the top.
Oh yeah, it was good experience for sure.
Okay, so now this other question is also children related, but it is not, you are not excluded from this question. And once you hear it, you'll know why. Okay, here we go. If 3,000 years into the future, one of your descendants discovered a 30-second segment of this interview, which part would you want it to be?
Well, I would have to say Indiana Jones because I everybody in my family, as well as my closest friends, know what a huge Indiana Jones nerd I am. Or I guess, we didn't really talk about Star Wars, but I'd have to say the Indiana Jones segment. And then maybe that lacks a little bit of depth, but that would be just something goofy that would stick out.
Have you ever met Harrison Ford or Steven Spielberg?
I've not met either one of them.
No.
I've met a few actors in L.A., but they unfortunately it wasn't Harrison Ford, and it was not Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Well, there's still time. That's the good.
Yes, there's still time, and you never know. Maybe I will be the new Indiana Jones.
Ah.
I could fit the mold. I've buffed up a little bit. I'm 47, and
well, you're the perfect age for a sequel. There you go.
Who are we kidding? I'm never leaving the studio again.
Okay, well, thanks, Terry. That was a great free association game. You did very well.
I like that game. I might have to steal that idea from you sometime.
That's a game you can't lose, right?
No, you always get you never know what you're going to get. That's a good idea.
Now, before we go, talk to us a little bit about your coaching, coaching voiceover coaching service.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I do there is I'll take a few selected number of new talents every month, new talents that understand the process and understand that it takes a lot of hard work to have a fair shot in this industry. And I'll work with them kind of like a mentorship. We'll work on different scripts, both commercial and narration. We'll work on some marketing stuff. It's basically, we do a bunch of stuff. I'll train them how to use recording software, how to use social media to get voiceover clients. It's a very candid program. It's not a smoke blowing program. There's no promises of success. It's a very down to earth one-on-one mentorship. Mm-hmm. And I know that's what people really appreciate about me, is that I'm not one of these, hey, you've got the voice of God. You're going to make $1 million in this business, and it's only going to take you 3 weeks. It's not like that at all. It's a mentorship program, so we'll go as long as it takes. There's no timeline or no deadline. It's not like one of these giant, massive demo mills out there where they throw somebody into a 3-hour class on a Saturday, and then the following morning they're in a studio recording a demo. It's nothing close to that. As a matter of fact, to be quite frank, that's really not the right way to do it. It takes a lot of time to really get your reads down. It takes a lot of time to find out what your niche is and develop your voice, and to, before you're even ready to do a demo. So that's kind of what I do. It's something that I do alongside of my regular voiceover business. And again, you know how much I love the variety. This kind of helps keep everything fresh.
How do your students find you?
Most of them find me online, either through like Facebook or Twitter, or they'll do a voiceover training or a voiceover coaching search on Google, and I tend to pop up within the first couple of pages, which is nice. And they'll send me an email. I get referred to by a lot of people, which is very nice. I always appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So it's really the combination of all those things. Okay.
And now, how can people find out more about your coaching program?
Well, they could send me an email, terry@universalvoicetalent.com. They can also write me through my website, which is universalvoicetalent.com. They can friend me on Facebook. They can follow me on Twitter. You can just look Terry Daniel Voice, and my profile should come up on Facebook. But my Twitter handle is @voiceovers by TD. T as in toast, D as in David.
And I think we all know what you're doing with the Universal Voice Talent domain. Universal is the studio that released Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, and that's part of it. But the other side of the truth is I'm hoping Universal Studios will make me a $900,000 offer to buy up my domain.
Could happen. Yeah.
Hey, do you want Universal Voice Talent? It's yours for $900,000.
Okay, tell us about a project you're working on right now that is the most exciting to you.
The one project I'm working on right now is, well, I just completed it, and the only thing I can tell you about it is it's an animated character.
Okay.
And it's one of those projects where they don't want you to talk about it, so I can't give you any really...
Yeah, you signed a non-disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. But I can tell you what it is.
A feature film.
The reason it's exciting is because I don't really do a ton of character work.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, my niche is commercial narration and theme park announcements. But I got this through an audition, which was, again, felt great because I'm sure there were a lot of people that were probably more qualified than I was to audition for this animated character for, some type of project. And that was really exciting to me because it got the creative juices moving again, and it was a really fun project.
Can you tell us if you were able to use your home studio for the project?
I was indeed. I did. I recorded all of the characters' lines from the comfort of my own home right here in Minneapolis.
Okay, probably with a phone patch, obviously.
Actually, no. They just sent me some direction and the script and said, you know what, just give us a little variety on each take, and we'll go from there. And then I also did one set of revisions for them because they said you were really, really close. But can you just do a couple different variations to these certain lines? So it wasn't a complete redo of the whole script, but I did have to do a revision on about half of the lines that they gave me. And then they were very pleased.
All right. That's great. Can you tell us when you will be able to talk more about this project?
I hope so, probably in the next 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Where
right.
Hopefully there will be some better news on that.
And so people can probably check your website in about 4 or 6 months and maybe get some more info, right?
Yep, they can do that. And if they don't see anything about this animated thing, that means this company completely ran out of money. But you never know. I mean, it's so fun. It's funny because when we voice stuff, and even though we get paid for it, sometimes it doesn't mean it's going to get used.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest with you, I could care less. I'm in it for the fun, but I'm also into this business for the money. And whether the commercial airs or if they use the e-learning project, it just doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today, Terry. It's been very informative.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's fun to kind of be on the other side of an interview because we do a voiceover podcast called VoiceOver Cafe.
I've listened to VoiceOver Cafe.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And it's kind of fun to kind of be on the other side of an interview. So I appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And you don't have to do anything. No editing, no scripting.
No. I just like to just chatter away, man. That's this works for me.
Okay. Now, tell us, how can people follow your work?
They can, again, if they want to friend me on Facebook or Twitter, that's a good way to follow it. They can also, do you mind if I give them the website address for the VoiceOver Cafe?
Not at all.
We do a podcast. It's voiceovercafe.org. We've got, I can't remember, I think we got about 20 episodes on there right now. And we also have different voice actors on there and like talent agents. And we just BS all things voiceover. So check that out. But, you can go to my website too, universalvoicetalent.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. No, I'm a pretty easy guy to get in contact with.
Okay. And when do episodes of your podcast come out?
We haven't done a new one for a couple of months. We kind of took a little hiatus from it, but we're going to be recording a new one coming up in a couple of weeks. So stand by. But, there's a lot of really good content on there already. It's not a regular like, hey, let's get together every Friday. It's a cast of about 5 or 6 people, and we have to coordinate everybody's schedule, and it's going to be very, very challenging. So we kind of record it whenever we can, kind of thing. There's really, I wish it was a little more consistent. Maybe in the future it will be, but check out the episodes that are on there, and I think you'll enjoy them.
Okay, great. Terry, can you play us out with something?
Sure. What would you like?
Well, do you have your baby grand right there? And
I wish, man. If I had a guitar here, I would throw down a little Johnny Cash for you, but
no. What we're looking for is an exhibition of your voice talent, something that is sugar for the ear of our listeners.
Oh, sure. Well, I can do. How about if I do my one of my theme park announcements?
Okay, this is a theme park announcement, and set it up for us. Tell us a little bit about the theme park.
I kind of did it earlier, but I did a really crappy and kind of my version was too mellow. But I'll give you one of my roller coaster reads once again.
This is a roller coaster. Roller coasters by Terry.
Yep, and this is if you're on like a roller coaster and the roller coaster starts to slow down, and here's an example of something that I would record. Here we go. Please keep your hands and feet inside the car until the car comes to a complete stop. When exiting the roller coaster, please step carefully to your left. Thank you for visiting blah 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 amusement park.